And we're on. Boys, welcome back to another group call. Super excited for this one. Really appreciate your time on a Sunday. For those that aren't listening now or here, I will be recording this and making a little mini course. So if you don't want to watch this back, there will be a mini course on this coming out in the next sort of week or so. Today's on caffeine, gents, and super excited to chat about this one. Really keen to get to the nitty-gritty of it. But first question for anyone that wants to chime in here: what does caffeine do to us, and what are some of the percentage? What's the percentage gain in performance that you think we can get? Have a bit of a guess. Anyone can chime in here. Maybe Kano. What does caffeine do?
Makes us run faster. Makes me a little bit less fatigued while I'm on the bike.
That's a big one. Definitely makes us less fatigued. It doesn't necessarily make us less fatigued, but it can definitely reduce the perceived effort. So it seems like we're less fatigued, essentially. Finny, anything else? What else does it do?
That's the first thing that comes to mind. It decreases perceived effort. So obviously you can push a little bit harder. Yeah.
What about alertness? Would you say it increases our alertness?
Yeah, it's a stimulant. So it gets you really wired up. Your reaction time's a little bit faster. You're just a little bit on the money.
Yep, 100%. And it also releases like endorphins. So you get that sort of like high feeling, right? Like we all know that feeling when you finish a run and you're like, oh, I feel amazing. Like you get that feeling and you can get it during training or racing. So there's lots of benefits and there are some negative side effects as well that we're going to talk about a little bit later. But we're going to focus on the positives for now. What sort of percentage gain on performance? Now, it's just a percentage figure. Do you think we might get by taking the right amount of caffeine?
20%.
20%? That's a massive number. It's not that high.
10%.
A massive number. Okay,
somewhere between 6 and 9, isn't it? Somewhere between 6 and 9.
Yeah, Finny, anything else? What do you want to chime in with?
I feel like that question could vary a lot because it also depends on the intensity and length of your exercise as well. Like it might have more of an effect like in a big race compared to like a 5 or 10K race.
Well, absolutely. So we're going to have a range here on this percentage number, but the percentage will work whether it's Ironman or not, right? Whether it's a shorter distance because it's a percentage of the whole day, right? So in terms of like time saved, it's going to be much bigger in longer events as opposed to shorter events, but the percentage gain is actually going to be pretty similar. And Daniel's probably closest so far. I've done a bit of research and actually Daniel sent some of this to me as well. The performance gain is somewhere between like sort of 3% and 7% if we nail the caffeine doses in the right amount. Now, Jesse said 20%, which is huge. I want to put in perspective a little bit what 3 and 7% actually looks like so that you guys can realize what caffeine is actually doing to us in terms of our performance. So, a little example for you. I rode at Bustleton 4 hours and 35 minutes, okay? Now, without that 3% gain on with using caffeine, my time would have been 4:43. That's the 3%. So that's the low range of what my performance would have been if I wasn't using caffeine. So 4:43. Keep that in your mind. If I had the upper end of that scale, 7% increase, I would have had a time of 4:55. That's a 20-minute deep performance, I don't know the right word, 20 minutes added to my time if I have 7% more work, right? That's huge. It's absolutely massive. Similar with the run, I ran 3:14 at Busso. A 3% increase would have been 3:20 and a 7% increase would have been 3:28. So let's just assume best case scenario for a moment. Let's say I'm getting 7% performance gains on my whole race. It works out to be about 34 minutes saved if I'm using caffeine. That's like over the course of an Ironman. And obviously I'm doing it in sub 9 here. So the longer you're actually spending, let's say we're going for sub 12, it's actually even more than 34 minutes. It's going to be more like sort of 40 or 45 minutes, which is just so drastic, boys. It's like really big. And I think that this is the closest thing to a performance enhancing legal drug that we're going to find. And anyone that is not using it is leaving time on the table. All right. Now, we do need to use it correctly, and we're going to talk through that here. But are we getting a bit of visualizing how much performance gain we can get from it?
That is a
Anyone?
lot. That's like insane.
It was actually
That's
a banned
huge.
substance for a while. So it's a performance. It was actually banned for a while, but there was no way. So they're just going, okay, well, we need to actually legalize it. So
Yeah,
it is
that's,
the number one performance enhancer that's legal.
it's absolutely crazy, man. And like, I don't know for a fact that this is what's undone Zaka at Busso, but Zaka didn't use, David Zaharakis, he didn't use much caffeine at all at Busselton, and he crumbled, absolutely crumbled. And I had a lot at Busso. I'll go through my strategy a little bit later with caffeine at Busso, but I'm telling you, when it gets tough in Ironman, caffeine is the first thing we should be reaching for, 100%. Obviously, now this is really, really important, guys. We need to grasp this concept. Caffeine is not a magic fix. It's certainly not energy, right? You're not going to gain energy by having caffeine. So let me put it in perspective. If we have a cake, right, then quality training and consistent training is the base of that cake. That's the whole cake, right? We get to the Ironman then, having a really, really good fueling and nutrition and hydration strategy. That's like the icing on the cake, right? That's what makes the cake really, really good. The caffeine is the sprinkles, right? It's 3 to 7%. It's nothing, it's not a magic fix. It's not going to solve all your problems. It's not going to get you a sub 10 Ironman or anything like that. It is literally the sprinkles on top of a cake. So you need to build the cake, you need to get the icing, you need to nail the nutrition and fueling and stuff. And then once we've got everything, we sprinkle on the caffeine and we get these little performance gains. It's the same as what I said in the aerodynamics chat. I think Finn was there. I'm not sure who else was. Aerodynamics is great if we get everything else right. If we train well, if we fuel well, if all of that happens, then we sort of get into aero position, then we add the caffeine. So these things are definitely going to be performance enhancers, but they are not the magic fixes, okay? So please get that in your head because it's really important, all right? Cool. Talked about that. Now, dosages. How much caffeine should I be having? It's a super generic, vague question, but like, let's just get the ball rolling here, guys. What do we reckon is the right amount of caffeine to have?
Go with 1 to 3 grams per kilo.
Yep. 1 to 3 grams, 1 to 3 milligrams. Sorry, not
Milligrams,
grams.
sorry. Unless you're Christian Blumenfeld, in which case, lots.
They're picking off the walls. So
Yeah.
1 to 3 milligrams of caffeine per kilo body weight. That's a pretty big range, right? So, and Daniel, is that per hour or what does that mean?
I think you're going to go and talk about sort of the lifespan of it and the half-life. And then once we understand that, then it allows you to do it. So that's basically the effective dose that you have in your system. And when you go in and you talk about sort of the life of it and then the half-life, you can realize how you can have some and then top up. And you might go, for me, for example, I'll have 300 milligrams on the bike. And then sort of midway through the run, I'll go for another 300 milligrams, which that's definitely at the upper end. And probably didn't need to go a full 300 milligrams, or on the bike, I could have gone a little bit less. So it's one of those things I'm still testing and tweaking my caffeine strategy.
Cool. 300 milligrams, probably to a lot of these boys in here, is going to sound like a hell of a lot of caffeine. Okay. So we're going to break this down and give lots of examples and stuff like that. That 1 to 3 milligrams per kilo of body weight, boys, is not a hard and fast rule of per hour. Okay. So when we think about sodium or carbs, we can definitely think about that per hour, right? We go, yep, we need to have 120 grams of carbs per hour. We can have, up to 1,000 milligrams sodium per hour. Bang, we hard and fast rules, and we keep consuming that throughout the race. That is not the case with caffeine. It is different, okay? You do not want, if I'm, say, 90 kilograms and I have 3 milligrams of caffeine per kilo body weight, that's 270 grams. I do not want to be having that every hour of an Ironman. I am done. All right. Game over. Get that in your heads. This caffeine is a little bit more complicated, but it is not per hour. The right amount of caffeine for any particular individual, I think, and I'm pretty sure this is in Daniel's mentality as well, we've done a bit of research together in this, is a noticeable increase in performance, right? So it's the dosage amount that you take and go, I am genuinely noticing that my perceived effort's coming down. I'm feeling slightly stronger and I can push a little bit harder or maintain the same power with less effort. Okay. That is it's a massive range on that number. For me at Bustleton, I was taking 130 milligrams of caffeine in my gels, and I noticed it. And if I noticed the performance increase, that's the perfect dose for me, right? Doesn't have to be any higher than that at the time. Doesn't have to be any lower than that at the time. That's the number. So for Finn, who doesn't drink coffee, his number might be 80 milligrams, right? But Finn has to figure this out. This is not something that I can go, hey, mate, go and have this many milligrams of caffeine. He has to test this again and again and again in training. Has to be consistently all the time testing it. If he has a winner's gel that has 50 milligrams of caffeine in it, doesn't hit him anything, he doesn't really notice the caffeine increase or the performance increase, he has to up that next time, and then he has to try again until he goes, holy shit, yeah, that's actually making my life easier. There's my dosage. And then if Finn keeps having that again and again and again consistently, and he starts to get a little bit used to it, and he's not noticing the performance increase again, he has to go, bang, I have to include more now. I have to up this number again. So it's this constant like battle and change and flirting with what the right amount is. There's no hard and fast rule of what works for everyone. Does that make sort of sense? Any questions or queries and concerns?
Yeah, got that.
You've gone mute again, Lockie.
I was just saying that makes sense. I haven't really had a kind of idea. I've been using caffeine somewhat, like every now and again. Like in my run I did a couple of weeks ago, I used it. That was like the first time I have. So, and I felt it then. So, it's probably good.
If you feel it, then that's perfect, man. Now let's think about a scenario here. Let's say I take my first 130 milligrams of caffeine and I have my performance increase and I feel the perceived effort reducing and I start going, yeah, this is good. I know that I can't just keep having that every hour. So how do I tell myself, or how do I learn when to have more caffeine? Let's think about Ironman here, because 70.3 is quite short. We might be able to figure out like, one here and then we're done. Ironman's a lot longer. So let's just think about Ironman right now. When would you think I would have my first lot of caffeine? And then when should I be having it thereafter that?
So for me, I normally want to have it. Normally, I don't like it pre-swim. I find it lifts my heart rate and it doesn't actually help me swim better. So I've eliminated it pre-swim. I know a lot of people love it pre-swim, but for me, it doesn't give me benefits. So the first time I'll have it is on the bike. Let's say full distance Ironman, I'll probably have it maybe a couple of hours in, maybe 2 hours in, and that should get me with the bulk of the effects of that 200 or 300 milligrams, whatever I go with, right through to the end of the bike. And then we start the run, and then we look at a caffeine strategy for the run as well. So the first time I would have it is on the bike and a couple of hours in. But if I'm not feeling good on the bike in the first hour, apart from being in big trouble, if I'm not feeling good in the first hour, I'm going to turn to caffeine earlier. So cool. I'm going to use it as a bit of a crutch when I need it. But yeah, if I'm not feeling good in the first hour, I'm in a bit of trouble anyways.
Yeah, this is true. So a couple of things here is this. I'm not making this a hard and fast rule for everyone at sub 10 athletes, but I would highly encourage you boys not to have caffeine pre-swim, okay? No coffees. I would get out of the habit of having coffees in the lead up to your Ironman anyway. Maybe give yourself a week or two, depending on how addicted you are. But try to limit caffeine in the lead up to your race. And then before the swim, I would highly encourage you not to have any. The swim is really hectic enough as it is. And the second thing is you are completely fresh. You've been tapering for the last 7 or 8 days. Your body is not fatigued at all. You're going to do an hour swim. You know that your body's going to handle that without fatiguing drastically. You might a little bit towards the end, but that's okay. But elevating your heart rate, creating these jittery feelings before the swim it's detrimental to what we're actually trying to achieve. All right. So I would highly recommend avoiding caffeine pre-swim. Daniel said he likes to start caffeine about a couple of hours into the bike. I've got written down here on my busso strategy, I had it about 2 to 2.5 hours into the bike. So the first big portion, almost 90 Ks of the bike, I'm not having it. Why? Because I'm fresh. I've come out of the water. My heart rate's a little bit high coming out of the water. We definitely don't want to have caffeine then. It's crazy enough as it is finishing T1. I settle into my bike. My legs feel fresh. I'm excited. This is probably when I'm feeling my strongest in the whole day, once I've settled into the bike. I don't need caffeine yet. Right? I don't need to reduce the perceived effort. 2 hours go in, and all of a sudden I'm now 90, 100 Ks into the bike, and I'm like, this bike's getting a bit of a drag, fatiguing slightly. Bang, caffeine. The dosage amount is the amount that gives me that perceived effort increase or reduction, where I feel better. 130 milligrams it was for me. For Daniel, it's something like 200 to 300. But your perfect dose, guys, is the lowest amount of caffeine that gives you that perceived effort increase, right? So don't assume that it has to be 300 like Daniel, because yours might be 100, it might be 80, it might be 150. And we want the lowest number possible to give you that performance increase, all right? Then once you have your first one, so let's say we're 2.5 hours into Busso, I have my first one, perceived effort drops, feeling good again for the next sort of like hour and a half, whatever it is. If Daniel's had 300, he's probably good until the bike. He's like, yeah, I know, until the run. He's good. He's sorted until then. I might be thinking, right, if fatigue creeps in again at, say, 150K, 160K, I've still got a little bit to go on the bike, I'm not going to grind out that 20 or 30 Ks on the bike feeling fatigued. Have another one. Have another 130 milligrams of caffeine, or have another one of your lowest dosage amount, whether it's 80, 120, getting my point? And then that gets you through to the end of the bike. So it's this constant like understanding what you're needing and then giving your body what it needs. I like to use the hard and fast rule that if I feel fatigue creeping in at any point, I'm having caffeine and I'm getting it in straight away. I'm not waiting until I'm really bonking. I'm not waiting until I'm feeling like absolutely cooked. As soon as I start to feel like, oh, this is getting a little bit harder now, getting in caffeine straight away. All right. And then general rules as well is if we're getting closer to the end of the race, you can have caffeine more frequently, all right? Because essentially fatigue is going to compound until this moment at the end of the race where it's really hard. And if we're timing caffeine and shortening the time period before it, you're going to peak the amount of caffeine that's in your blood system when it's the hardest point in the race. And that's essentially what we want to do, all right? God, I feel like I'm talking way too much in this call. I need to ask him some questions, I think. Anyone want to comment on queries on that?
Well, I was going to ask, how quickly does it kick in? So, like, if I'm let's say like an hour and a half run, right, and then I need some caffeine. How quickly should I notice it kick in, and take effect?
I know, it's such a banger of a question. Let me get my little graph up for you, mate, that I can show you.
For me, Kane, I reckon it's usually about 20 minutes, and then bang, I feel it.
Okay, because I get you get that placebo effect when you have that, when you have it straight away, and you're like, oh, I feel way better, and you're like, dude, you've just had it. But
cool. So great answer, Finn. I like it. And Kano, amazing question. Have a look at this graph here, boys. So fast absorption, people that absorb caffeine fast, you're peaking at about 40 minutes, right? Now, Finn, that doesn't mean that you're not going to feel it after 20 minutes, because as you'll see on this graph, it starts to enter the bloodstream, and about halfway up here is where you're like, oh my God, caffeine, hello, nice to see you again, right? And you start to feel it. And then it lasting for 40 minutes, and you might be peaking around here, and then it actually stays in your system quite well for a long period of time. So it has a half-life of about 5 hours. So after 5 hours, it's still got about half of the amount of caffeine in your bloodstream, which means that after, let's say we'd have caffeine and we're racing for like an hour and a half, we've still got so much in here, and we're going to top it up again to be all the way up here now. All right. And we're just going to keep it going up and up and up. And this graph's just going to go down over time, but we're going to have heaps of caffeine in our bloodstream once we get to the hardest point of the race at the end. For other people, and everyone's slightly different. If somebody absorbs it quite slower, they will still start to feel it around like sort of 20, 30, 40 minutes in, but it's not going to peak in their bloodstream until sort of like an hour and 20 minutes in, right? So everyone's absorbing it different. And this is why it's so vitally important that you're testing this stuff in training, right? Every single long ride and long break and long run that you're doing, you should be having the amount of caffeine that you're noticing a difference, and then analyzing what it does to you, feeling what it likes, how long it lasts, and how long you start to reduce stop feeling the effects of it as well. So does that answer your question, Kane? Cool. I can put that into the group chat after that little graph there. Let me get my notes back up. But really, really good question, man. I love that. Before we go into, I want to move into soon some of like the adverse side effects of caffeine. Before we do that, I want to quickly talk about like when we've spoken about Ironman, right? And like how we would take caffeine throughout an Ironman. But what would change if we're doing, say, a sprint distance? When would I have my caffeine if I'm doing a sprint distance triathlon?
I'm having it before I
At
go
the
on a
start.
swim. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. So that's 100%. I'd be having a heap of caffeine before the race, so I don't have to think about it while I'm on the course. And just it's going to hit me sort of 40 minutes in, 50 minutes in. The race is probably going to last like an hour and a half, something, depending on your level. And bang, it's just going to hit your system right when it starts getting hard. It's going to be in there throughout it. You don't have to think about it, right? Obviously, with Ironman, we've got to think way more about it. How am I going to get it in? And we'll talk a little bit more about how we can get our caffeine in soon, but definitely before the race, okay? What about, say, Olympic distance? A little bit longer, 2.5 hours.
Aside from the Olympic distance, just before we get to that, if I've got we got testing coming, or I have testing coming up on Tuesday, so I got my run test. If I was going to take caffeine, when would I take caffeine before I do the test? Like
20 minutes before?
20 minutes before, and then that'll get me through it?
Yeah. 20 minutes, because it's going to peak at sort of like 40, 50 minutes in, right? So that's going to hit you at 20 minutes into your test. You got 10 minutes to go. That's going to be the hardest point, 20 minutes before. Yeah.
Okay, beautiful.
Good question.
I'd agree. That's what I do too. So when do you think you need it the most? Take some time off that. That's when you have it before that period.
Beautiful.
Good questions. Olympic distance? We're sort of understanding this now, which is good, but let's still talk about it.
In T1?
Oh, sorry.
Go, Jesse.
I'm probably like 10k in, 15k in on the bike on the Olympic distance. It's a big. I feel like it's a big swim, so you kind of don't want to be jacking your heart rate up. But that's just for me. I'm pretty sensitive to caffeine though. Probably 15k on the bike.
I would avoid it pre-swim as well here, but I'd be getting it in early on the bike. So I don't waste any time in T1 having nutrition. I like to get out on the bike and have all my nutrition there. But once I've settled down on the bike and I'm good to go, bang, caffeine in straight away so I can have it throughout the majority of the race now. That's what I would do. Anyone else do anything different there, you reckon?
I had been doing it differently. I'd been sort of doing it towards the end of the bike because I sort of want it for that mid part of the run. So when I want the caffeine to kick, and all of a sudden it's almost a massive release of not energy, but the RPE drops, and then I can really send it home. But it's probably something I'll adjust and have it slightly early to get the effects on the bike. But I like a bit of a sense of calm on the bike anyway, even though there's that intense effort.
Yeah. You could even do sort of like your lower range of your dose, and then once you're finishing the bike, bang, have your upper dose, have an upper range of dose. Now you've got it for the whole race as well. But I really respect, like, calm is also good. We don't always need to just be smashing caffeine, boys. If you can find a rhythm and you're not like fatiguing drastically, don't reach for caffeine if you don't need it. It should be used as a way to manage the hardest parts of the races. Okay, so if we've at an easier part of the race, or we're comfortable at part of a race, don't worry about it there. Okay, just do what you're good at and stick to the. So I really respect what you said, Daniel. I agree.
I feel like I feel like people would overuse caffeine to just like get out of their body to not feel the pain. To just absolutely smash caffeine to not feel any pain, and then they're just like floating on the run. They're like, what's going on? But,
I definitely agree there'd be people like that. I think there's also a lot of people that don't use caffeine well enough. Like they don't use it enough. So it's this, we're trying to find that really nice balance. Cool. All right, spoke about that. Now, let's do the adverse side effects. So what are some things that can happen to us using caffeine that maybe aren't good for us, or we don't necessarily want to see?
Crashing,
yeah. Okay, so if we have too much of it, and we don't top it up enough later, and that's when we have it too early. Yeah, it might crash. What else?
Regular visits to the porta potties.
Sometimes, especially through things like coffee. Yeah, definitely is going to create us go to the toilet a bit more.
For me, so happened to me at Cairns Ironman actually. So it was basically my strategy was the 300 milligrams on the bike, 300 milligrams early run. So I had my 300 milligrams in the first hour of the run. Then they ran out of the Morton black gels, and I hadn't tested any other nutrition, so I kept having whites. So I reckon I probably had 700 grams on the run on top of the 300, and I'd forgotten I was tired and fatigued, and I was running along. My face was numb. I was tingling. I was anxious. Started to panic a little bit. What's going on? And I'd actually forgotten that I'd done that. So it's one of those things that if you get it wrong, it really compounded and affected my Ironman on top of everything else. So yeah, things can go wrong if it goes wrong. So
more is definitely not more with caffeine. Okay, like I've said it a couple of times already, boys, but the best dose for you is the one that you notice at the lowest amount. All right, the lowest amount of dosage that you notice the performance increase. That's the number for you. Definitely, it spikes your heart rate, so it's working your heart more than without it. But the benefits are too great to not have it. But it's something to consider as well if you're running a really high heart rate anyway. So if we come out of T1, we know that we have a high heart rate generally coming out of T1s getting onto the bike. If you're smacking caffeine there as well, it's just adding to the whole hecticness of T1 and everything, right? So there are times where it's not the best thing to use. You can get jitters, like Daniel said, anxious, tingles, everything like that. So all things to consider when having too much. It also, like we spoke about before, it has like a half-life of 5 hours, which means that if I have 100 milligrams now, in 5 hours' time, it's still got 50 milligrams coursing through my blood, and it's a stimulant. So if I'm having coffee or caffeine at, say, 6 p.m., right, in 5 hours' time, it's like having half of that amount of caffeine. So at 11, I'm still having half a coffee. So we don't want to be having stimulants and caffeine later in our day. That's part of the reason why I do most of my training in the morning, because if I am having caffeine, I've got all of it done by sort of like 11, 12 in the afternoon latest. And then I know that I'm going to sleep and recover well late at night because we know that's important. So yeah, avoid it late in the day if you can. And Kane's touch on this one, GI distress, obviously with all the carbs and everything we're having, and then it just adds to that. You're going to have to go to the toilet. So this is super important that you're practicing it in training. If you're not doing long rides with caffeine yet and long bricks, you need to start doing it now, okay? And you need to be analyzing what happens, relaying to me what's going on, and we can plan and figure out the race strategy with it. Last one, I think, for me, before we can just open the floor, is like, how do we get our caffeine? Where can we find it? What are some options? Roll them out to me.
Metric fuel.
Metric fuel charged. Absolutely. Number one. I'm so glad it was first. Yes, definitely.
A product I really love that not many people know about, and Taryn Richardson at Triathlon Nutrition Academy got me onto them. Revy strips. They're great. They're little strips about this big. You put them on your tongue, they dissolve, and you can get either 40 or 100 milligrams of caffeine. No carbs, no nothing. So you just go, I just want caffeine, bang. So I really enjoy them.
It is one of the limitations with something like metric fuel where you might have, let's say the strategy goes wrong and you've got to adjust on the day. If you have already had your carbs, but you need to have your caffeine, you're a bit stuck, right? Because you need to have the 30 milligrams of carbs to get the 100 milligrams of caffeine. But with, like Daniel said, with Revies, all you do is strip under the tongue, bang, you've got your caffeine. You don't have to have any soda, you don't have to have any fluid, you don't have to have any carbs. It's just straight into your system. Another one that's convenient is No-Dose. It's just like some tablets that you can get from the chemist, I believe. I'm not sure. I don't think you need a strict script or anything like that. But 100 milligrams for each tablet. And again, bang, pop it, put it back with some water, and that gets you caffeine. So No-Dose, Revies. Revies are also good as well because there's the blue packet has 100 milligrams of caffeine and the red packet has 40 milligrams of caffeine. So you can actually test at different amounts, right? Let's say it's me and I want to do 1.5 times my body weight. I can go and have a red one and a blue one, and I know, great, I've got that's the right amount for me. Okay. So you can mix and match and work it as you go. You can also have it part metric fuel, part revies. You can do it part no-dose, part metric fuel, whatever you like to do, but you need to understand the dosages and you need to understand what that dosage is doing to you and your body. Where else can we get caffeine?
Cola.
I've been having
Coke? Sorry.
yeah, I've
As
been
you
having
go.
no, that's all right. I've been having the Coles like 50-gram cola ones, and I've tried everything, and everything I do, I have to stop and go to the toilet. They're the only ones that don't give me any stress in my stomach,
Cool.
which is great. Yeah,
So,
Revy's had a bad time.
Oh, really?
oh, really?
Yeah, but my gut's super sensitive, so
Wow, that's
Revy's
strange
are
though.
great. I used to have more at football like 8 years ago, but yeah, it just goes straight through me.
Have you tried the no-dose?
No, I haven't. Might have to give it a go next week.
Yeah, well, they're just a tablet. Like, I'd be surprised if that's doing anything in your gut. But I mean, I was surprised to hear that Revy's is doing that as well. So, just like I said, Jesse, just keep testing, man. All right, we've got a lot of time to bust out, but we want to try and nail it for cans as well. So definitely keep testing different things that you can do in training and racing. Dan mentioned Coke. Absolutely, Coke has caffeine. It's not a drastic amount, I don't think. Do you know how much caffeine is in a can of Coke, Dan?
I think it's 40
Hang
milligrams.
on. There is. Doesn't list it. I don't know. I'll have to Google it later. So
it's not much compared to the amount of Coke. Like when you're at a race and you pick up a Coke, you're only going to get a splash of it, right? You're not going to have like a big whole can of Coke. And I think in a whole can, it's like, I think Finn said it's 40 milligrams, which isn't a lot. Okay. So yes, it has a little bit, but make sure you know the dosages when you're having it in training and racing, because otherwise you're like, oh yeah, I had caffeine and I kind of felt it, but I kind of didn't. And you have no idea how much it was. Well, we haven't learned anything, right? So we need to understand the dosages. Things like coffee, you should understand how much. Like coffee and tea that have caffeine are really good. They got antioxidants as well, good for the gut and stuff like that. So they're probably your most healthy options of caffeine. So definitely have them. Obviously, you can't really have them in training and racing, but if you're having it day to day, perfect. They're good for you. Red Bull, Monster energy drinks, all that stuff has caffeine in it. Try and figure out dosages if you are having that stuff. But the main ones are gels, no-dose, Revies, metric fuel. That's what we're going to use for training and racing. Yeah? Cool. That's all I've got. Any other questions? Concerns? Queries? It's got to be something.
I did have a couple of things which have escaped me for the most part, but one of them was, yeah, like you said, so if I'm using like the metric fuel to charge stuff, is it an idea to put that in like a separate bottle on its own, not with as many carbs? So if you just need carbs, you can top up your bay with carbs, and then if you do need that, you can have like one of the little bottles or something.
It's a great question. It's a really, really, really good question, and it's personal preference, I think. But Daniel will probably agree with me here. You want to have your caffeine in a big dosage at once, so you don't necessarily want to be thinking about having it over. Let's say you put in a bottle with a whole bunch of other carbs, right? That you're going to be drinking over the course of 2 hours. You're drip feeding that in, and you might not feel that performance increase that we want from caffeine, right? So for me personally, and Daniel and I are speaking about this, trying to bring it out to metric fuel, is an ideal gel. This is for running now, not necessarily on the bike, but an ideal gel that has the carbs, the caffeine, the sodium, everything. So you just have it once, and you that's good for half an hour or 20 minutes, whatever it is, and then you just keep running, and then you have the same thing again. You're keeping your fluids up from the aid station. So we're working on that a little bit, but for me personally, you want to try and get your caffeine in all at once so that you get that performance increase, and then have it again once the perceived effort is going up again and you're needing to reduce it. Does that make sense?
So
however you can do
it. Could you make because you can make gels out of the metric fuel, could you make like a caffeine gel for the bike, suck that in, get all that done, and then have caffeine in the bay as well to kind of keep you going? Or would you
can. There's no right or wrong answer, mate. 100% you can absolutely do that. I wouldn't. I would have my carbs and my sodium together, which has fluid in it, and I'd be topping fluid up from the aid station, and then I have my caffeine separate. The caffeine that's separate may have more carbs in it, as long as I've worked it out in my whole strategy. But I'm having that caffeine quickly, right? Like if it's a gel, if it's a handmade gel, I might have it within 10 minutes, right? Or 5 minutes or so. If it's a tear off gel, I'm having it and it's gone. It's done. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how I do it. There is no right or wrong answer though. You can put it in a bottle and you can drip feed it in, but we're looking to use caffeine to reduce the perceived effort. So if you don't have it quick enough at once, you might not get that feeling. And if it could be working anyway, and therefore placebo effect, you're thinking, I know I'm having this caffeine, I know it's working, that's good. But for me personally, I would have it at once.
Yeah, because I'm looking at because obviously I got the new bike that's on its way, and then once I get all the parts for that, I'm looking at how many drink holders do I need if I want to get a little bit where I can put a little bottle of caffeine or something underneath. Because obviously for Geelong, I put all of my stuff into the bottle and then butchered that. So I do need a new.
And tried to stir it while it was in there as well. That would love it.
Yeah. and then Daniel looks at me and he's like, "The fuck have you done?" I'm like, "I'll start it."
So Daniel, for cans, how you're going to have, at 2.5 hours in, you're going to have 300 milligrams of caffeine, you said, or 200 to 300 milligrams of caffeine. How are you going to take that?
For me, in an Ironman, so basically I'll have Morton white gels. So the convenience of having them, I wish I had my own in a gel pouch. When I've got a normal ride, I'll have this style of pouch, but I've got a smaller one, and I've actually got smaller ones coming in as well, where I'll actually mix 90 grams of charged in there, which gives me 300 milligrams of caffeine, and I consume that as a gel. And I won't have the 90 grams all at once. I'll have it over 40 minutes. But it also allows me to go, okay, I have a third of it at 0 minutes. I have another 30, so I've had 200 milligrams of caffeine in 20 minutes. Then once I get to that 40-minute point, I go, actually, I'm good. I don't need the rest. Or I go, actually, I'll have a bit more. So it gives me a bit of flexibility.
So Kano, this is just one of those ones that's kind of in the middle now. So I like to have it all at once. He's having it over 40 minutes. We probably don't want to do it over 2 hours though, right? So you make your strategy up. I like this strategy. You're getting, and the thing about Daniel's one here is his dosage per 20 minutes is actually roughly what I would have for my first one, right? Because he's doing so much. He's having 300. So he's got quite an aggressive strategy for his caffeine early, where it's coming in over 40 minutes in 90 grams of carbs. He doesn't have to worry about having any other fuel in that time because he's probably averaging about 120 per hour. So he might have a sip somewhere else, but most of his carbs in that hour or that 40 minutes is coming from that charge, and it's got 300 milligrams of caffeine in it. And he knows that after that, he's going to be peaking for a while, right? He's got that peak's coming another 40 minutes after that. And because he's had it over a 40-minute period, it's going to last for it's going to be a while, which is good. So just a different strategy.
Yep. And the thing with mine, if I've had it and I'm feeling good after that 200 milligrams, I stop. If I'm feeling good and the RPE's dropped, there's no need for extra. I save it for, okay, I'm on the run now, I'm hurting again. Bang.
And he would just go back. He would go back to his carbs that he's got in his bottle that doesn't have the caffeine in it. So as soon as he feels that perceived effort dropping, right, he knows that's the lowest dose that I need. Bang, I don't need any more right now. I'm going to save it for when it starts to get really hard again. It's a good strategy in a sense that you can't really fuck up where the lowest amount, right? You keep having it until you're like, bang, there it is, feeling it now, and I can just put this aside, right? So it's a good little strategy.
Yeah. I'd say for me, probably more towards Alex's strategy would be better for me, because knowing how, especially I don't have a gallbladder as well. So if I go too far, I've done it on a couple of my rides where I've thought, let's pack it in and let's go for a lot of it. And then it just means I'm ducking to find a bathroom quick. So
you can do my strategy with Daniel's mix together. What you can do, man, is have the number that you think you're at, and then space that out over 40 minutes like Daniel's doing. And then as soon as you find it, you go, there's the performance increase, right? And then you go, that's my number. You're testing it throughout. Daniel's obviously done a heap of testing to figure this out for his amount. You probably haven't done as much of that. So you're still there's a little less clarity in your mind about where that number is. That's why training it is really important. And the way that he does it is a safe way to find that number. if you do my strategy where you're doing it all at once, you're sort of guessing in the beginning and you're trial and error until you find that number. But his way of doing it is I'm doing it every 20 minutes. I'm having more, roughly 100 milligrams until I find the point. And then, oh, there's the point. Yeah, I felt it. Now I'm stopping there. I'm putting that back in the back pocket and I'll go back to my carbs elsewhere. Is that making sense? But I'm complicating things a little bit too much, maybe.
Now, also, an important thing, no matter what I'm doing, I will always carry like Revies with me, or if it's no dose, doesn't matter. And the reason for that is, and the same thing goes with sodium, and that if you've got it in your carbs, if you need something and it's mixed in with something else that you're not stomaching carbs, and you want some caffeine or you want some electrolytes, but they're in with your carbs, you've got nowhere to go. It's happened to me several times. And it's probably why almost everything is mine is separate. I got separate water, got separate carbs. If I want electrolytes, I'll grab them from an aid station. And sometimes you just want caffeine and you don't want or need carbs.
100%. There should be options everywhere. This is the biggest thing that I fucked up at Rinjani. I had all my sodium in my concentrated carb mix, and I couldn't get the carb mix down because I was like redlining with the heat and the humidity, and I needed the sodium and I couldn't get it because it was in the gel, right? So Daniel would have salt tablets in there as well to go, oh, okay, I can't get the carbs in, but I know I need salt because I'm sweating so much. It's really humid. I'll keep having the salt tablets and keep drinking. As soon as I come down and get to the heart rate comes down and I can regather my stability, then I can get back onto the carbs. But I couldn't get the sodium at all. So having different options on the day, super important, definitely. Yeah.
And especially where you can carry them. All of them, they weigh nothing. They're easy to carry. It's for, if I need a backup plan, I've got this tiny little strip or this tiny little sodium cap, and it can save your race.
Yeah. Literally no brainer. So salt tablets and Revies or Nodos, I will be carrying with me for every single race from here on out. I won't ever do it without it now. They don't weigh anything. There's no risk in doing it. Yeah. Did someone chime in there? Or did I interrupt? Cool. Well, I think that's it, lads. Anything else from you, Finny?
I think another, one gel that has heaps of caffeine that is quite popular is like the Science and Sport beta gels. They have like 200 milligrams of caffeine. So if and that's just like a 30 gram carbohydrate gel. So if you need
I'm gonna have a crack at one of them. That's good. I'm gonna get one of them to go.
And Science and Sport have a 50% off sale on them right now. So
I'm gonna get some.
Stock up on them.
Use Finn Howard for 25% off.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually had a horror story of a guy that he didn't realize, because they're not really advertised as having that much caffeine. He was just slamming them as normal gels, but then
bouncing off the walls.
He just crashed, hit the wall, heart rate went up, and I think he DNF'd because just so much caffeine in them.
Do you know if they've got sodium in them, mate?
No, they don't.
Okay. Mate, I'm keen to make a gel that's got everything in it, and then just the right amounts for most people. Then we could just go from there. Anyway, please put that in the WhatsApp group chat, Finny. Though if a link to that'd be really helpful. And I'll end the recording now. We can stay on if we want. Give me a tick.